Hi everyone, my name is Steve Gaynor and I am the Community Coordinator for socialbizug.org, and I am delighted to introduce Mr. Brian O'Neill as our Member of the Month. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
It's really good to see you. And just a little side note, I noticed you're in Kentucky?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Oh, you're in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I'm originally from West Virginia.
Okay.
What part of Pennsylvania?
So I'm actually in Maryland right this second. So I travel through Maryland, Delaware, and Pennsylvania, all in that corner of the world there.
Gotcha. I just made a flying trip, well, not flying, driving actually, back home. It was my stepfather's 90th birthday, and I do a big chunk of that trip through Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Yeah, we're on the east side, so
Okay. All right, well, so let's get started here. So, for my first question, let's start with your elevator resume. What do you do? Who do you work for? What's your job title? Your duties, responsibilities, yada.
yeah, it's good. So again, my name is Brian O'Neill. I work at a company called WL Gore and Associates. A lot of people know that company as Gore. If from a consumer standpoint, the one huge the product that people would know is Gore-Tex. So, but we're a manufacturing company that does over 1,000 products that we have. From as far as who I am, I do my current title is nothing. So this is a special thing about Gore. We don't have titles. We're a very flat organization. I think from an outside world perspective, I have a social business and collaboration specialist as kind of how I describe myself. And really, what my main function right now is at Gore is I'm championing the connections rollout here at Gore. So really focused on managing our business partner that does the technical aspects, helping the business with the adoption of connections, also doing some translation between what the business needs would be and what the products can provide. So also exploring other things outside of connections in the social space.
That sounds really interesting. Well, that leads me into then my next question is I always like to find out how you got involved with Lotus Notes Domino, or in this case, with Connections. Do you have any formal training? Were you self-taught? Just basically, how did you get in? Oh, and are you consider yourself an admin, a developer, or both?
Yeah, so if I go back in history, I started at Gore in 1999. I started in desktop support. And Gore at that time was using Lotus Notes version 4, so that's really where my exposure started with Notes. I really started enjoying using Notes, and a role came available that was a Lotus Notes administrator role after I had been here a couple years. So I moved into that role, and ever since I've really been in the ICS world and doing things. I did have some formal training classes, but they were like welcome to the administrator classes. I think a lot of my training was from a really good, strong mentor who had been working with Notes since R2. I worked really close with him, attending the Lotus Spheres, a lot of those discussions with other peers. So a lot of it was, I'd say, more self-taught or more, experience-based. Gore doesn't focus on certifications or really providing a lot of that paper certification. So I never went through any of those types of methods on trying to get into the Domino world. And then around so about 3 years ago, we started exploring the Connections product, and it's kind of a natural thing for me to move into that. I really had a lot of interest in the social space, and so we kind of made a new role. And I've really helped Gore to move into the Connections world, and we're still using Notes and Domino. We still have a strong team there, but we're looking at doing a lot of integrations and trying to figure out where all these things fit.
I think having a strong mentor is awesome. I think that's one of the best ways to learn.
Yeah, it was really he was great as far as he never, if you went to him and asked a problem of him, he would never give you the answer. So he was a really great teacher. He would make you think through, okay, you know the answer, think through the problem and then, come up with it yourself. So that was something that always stuck with me as far as, I learned it because I did it rather than someone telling me the answer. So that was always a positive way. And it's helped me kind of learn, train other people too on Notes Domino after, because that style really resonated with me.
I can see how it would. That sounds really wonderful, actually. I come from an education background, my family. My father was a grade school principal, my brother was a high school teacher. And when you hear those sorts of teaching techniques, for me, I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. All right. So, can you tell us about any recent challenges you had, and what you may have done to overcome them?
Yeah, I was trying to think about how some things that were kind of resonating with and at work, and I think one of the things being in IT that we have a tendency to be a little bit more introverted. So I think I started thinking about a problem I had is giving feedback to someone that I work with. And, it was a little critical, a little negative feedback, and it was really kind of bothering me from an emotional perspective. And what, as I did some research, we had a lot of support programs here at Gore. And they have a method called SBI, which is around giving the feedback is here's the situation, here was your behavior, and then here's the impact it caused. So it kind of takes the emotion out of it and gives something more concrete that you can give the feedback to the users. So I think that was a big thing that I learned. It felt a lot better. I was helping someone kind of grow, but it wasn't coming from I'm bashing them. But here's really the impact it had on our relationship. So I think that was a really good thing I felt good about that I was able to overcome.
I agree. That's one of the hardest things to do, I think, is to give instructive criticism. That just like you said, you don't want to bash someone. That's not your point. It's just actually trying to help.
Yeah, and I think not keeping it in a lot. So sometimes you get these feedback type of items, and it's like if you let them build up, it ends up becoming a bigger issue than it is. So it really taught me how to deliver that feedback, at a timely basis. So it was like, hey, let me just kind of let's have a better relationship. And I think the other person received it really well, and I think it actually improved, a lot of things around the way we're working together. So
That's really good. Okay, so now I understand that you work with the Social Connections user group, and that you have a meeting coming up. Can you give us some details about that meeting? When is it? Where is it? What topics do you plan on covering? And do you have any guest speakers? Just what's the rundown on it?
Yeah, so I've worked with the Social Connections for the last couple years. That Social Connections is really an independent IBM social business connections user group. It was founded in 2011. We tentatively say we have about 3,500 members worldwide. Wow. So those are people that are doing things, connecting on social sites like LinkedIn. The group itself has met 6 times. Usually those are 1 or 2 events. Our most recent event was back in Prague in June. But like you had mentioned, our next user group is going to be taking place in Stockholm, Sweden. That's November 13th and 14th. So we just recently published the agenda for that, and the keynotes that we're going to be featuring are from Louis Richardson, who's really the IBM storyteller on social. Also Mike Roach, who is the IBM Director of Development. And then also Luis Suarez, who's an ex-IBMer who's really become an independent thought leader around social technology. So that's who our main keynotes are. But in addition to that, we have 4 tracks of breakout sessions around management, case studies, administration, development. So those are really our focuses around the different tracks. We have a ton of IBM champions that do speak at the event. We're also going to, have like a birds of a feather type sessions this time, which is new. So having a chance for people to discuss different topics. And we're going to keep doing things like our speed sponsoring, which is where we get people to know the sponsors that have, that sponsor the event, that really make it possible for us to hold the event. And then the last thing is really the gala. that I really look forward to every year because it extends the conversation past just the sessions. So you get to actually mingle in a dinner, a really fabulous location to talk with, actually the people that are giving those presentations you can connect with and make those networks and those relationships with people. So that event again is just in a few weeks away. So if you're working with connections, you're working with social business, that's on premise or even the cloud variants, that's definitely a place to register for.
I would love to go to Sweden. And I know you said this, but please give me the dates one more time.
It's November 13th and 14th.
Okay, so just a 2-day event?
So we're starting off in the morning of the first day on the 13th with an introduction in Swedish, so local people can have that introduction to social business, and then we'll start around noon of that first day with the main content, and then the second day will be a full day.
That sounds really good. That sounds like a great event. I don't think the boss will let me go to Sweden.
It is really fantastic. I mean, I think the thing that I get out of this the most is the people. I think the content is great, but having the chance to have access to people after the conference. Hey, I know so and so said this. I want to connect with them and be able to have hey, remember we met in at Social Connections. That really is the benefit that I've gotten out of this.
Excellent. All right, so I'm now up to the most important question of the interview. What is your favorite movie and why?
So I thought about this one a little. I'd come up with The Usual Suspects, Inception, any of the Star Wars movies, but I think the one that topped it all for me was Pulp Fiction. I think that's the one that I probably watched the most often, and I loved the quirkiness of Quentin Tarantino and the way that he told the story. Jumping around from he'd tell you something and then it really was after something else that happened in the movie. So it was the way that he told that, and it was just the interesting kind of the culture that you don't really see a lot about in movies, and it was just I really liked how well that was done.
I agree. That's one that just sits in my Netflix queue permanently, and I just go back and watch it. I actually just watched Seven Psychopaths. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Highly recommend it. Don't let the title throw you. It's Christopher Walken, Colin Farrell, Woody Harrelson, and a couple other people that you'll recognize.
It is in my list. Yeah.
And it is not a typical Hollywood movie. I highly recommend it. And again, don't let the title throw you. It's not what you think it is.
Yeah.
And actually, I want to throw in a bonus question. Have you read any good books lately? Anything that you can recommend, either for work-related or just for fun?
Good books. I'd have to say the one book I could recommend is The Alchemist. So I'm not a huge reader, and this book was a really easy read. It took me 2 days, and it was really inspiring. It was a positive message on your destiny and where you're going in the world. So it really gets you thinking about you and how you can make some positive changes in your life. So I really think that if I had to single one book out, that would be it.
Excellent. All right, I think we're out of time. Brian, again, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And I wish you all the absolute best with your upcoming meeting, and I hope to see you on the site.
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate you having me, and look forward to seeing the video also.
All right, talk to you soon then.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.